This is what happens when you run out of ideas. The idea of Space Godzilla originated back in 1978, but that concept, along with others, was scrapped for one reason or another. Coming back to 1994, artists drew the space monster after the Super Nintendo game Super Godzilla, which was nothing more than a chore to get through, coming from a gamer like myself. And just when you thought we were done with bringing back old monsters from the past, Toho did just that again. This time, it was Mogera, a robot that originated in the 1957 film The Mysterians. Now here is where things start to get worrisome. Takeo Okawara, who was the director of the previous two movies, was not assigned the role as director. Neither was the screenwriter Wataru Mimura. Kensho Yamashita, I think I got it, was given the role as the director, and Hiroshi Kashiwabara was attached as a screenwriter. Both had more experience in teen dramas than monster movies, which is saying a lot. Even composer Akira Fugube he refused to come back and do the score. The new composer I will talk about in my final thoughts. Okay, Unwanted Vehicle. The end result was Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, which was released on December 10th, 1994, earning a whopping $20 million in U.S. currency, despite the film coinciding the Kobe earthquake at the time. It also didn't help that the film was met with mixed reactions from critics and audiences. The defunct Monster Zero called the film a curiously uninvolving effort that disappoints in nearly all aspects of the production. American Kaiju criticized the film as wildly uneven pacing, uneven special effects, and exceedingly lumpy story, but added that most of the special effects are pretty fair. Are you sure about that, dude? Have you taken a closer look at it? Like, okay. And the monster battles are mostly fun. Again, that's highly debatable in our eyes. And finally, Toho Kingdom said the film is far from terrible and an underrated movie. I don't know about that, but it felt like it suffered from an overly complicated story, underdeveloped characters, and forgettable music. Are all of those points true? Well, let's find out. This is my review of Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Now, where the hell did I put my beer? So the story goes as follows. Godzilla's cells brought into space by Biollante and or Mothra are exposed to intense radiation from a black hole somehow, resulting in the birth of Space Godzilla somehow, which quickly makes his way to Earth, destroying a NASA space station along the way. Meanwhile, members of the United Nations Godzilla Countermeasure Center, what a mouthful, arrive at Birth Island in order to plant a mind control device on Godzilla. I wonder how that's going to go. The Cosmos, Mothra's twin priestess, appeared to psychic Miki Segusa and warned her of Space Godzilla's arrival. Mogera, that's short for Mobile Operations G-Force Universal Expert Robot, Aerotype, again, what a goddamn mouthful, replaces Mechagodzilla and is sent to intercept Space Godzilla. Why does that sound freaking redundant? But suffers damage in the process. Space Godzilla lands on Birth Island and attacks Godzilla's offspring, Godzilla Jr. Even though they say Little Godzilla, I do not give a humongous shit. Godzilla intervenes but finds himself overwhelmed by Space Godzilla and is powerful to stop his clone from trapping Jr. in a crystal prison. Space Godzilla leaves for Japan with Godzilla in pursuit. Shortly thereafter, the Yakuza abduct Miki and bring her back to their base in Fukuoka in an attempt to use her psychic abilities to gain control over Godzilla. Do you not remember the last time she did that and her brain was literally fried? Twice, in fact. I'm surprised she isn't dead. Miki is saved by a rescue team before Space Godzilla's arrival. Space Godzilla, in the meanwhile, lands in central Fukuoka and forms a massive fortress of... How the hell do you say this word? Fucking, I'll skip over that word. Crystals. Bulgaria arrives to once again fight Space Godzilla, but still is no match for him. Yeah, given your track record, not doing so well, dude. Meanwhile, Godzilla arrives in Kagoshima Bay and fights Space Godzilla, although he had to walk his ass on land just to get to Fukuoka and actually fight Space Godzilla. But Space Godzilla himself easily gets the upper hand. For now. The JSDF discovers that Space Godzilla is using the Fukuoka Tower as a power converter, using it to transform the Earth's core into an energy that Space Godzilla can absorb, slowly killing the planet. How the did they come to that conclusion? Who knows? While Godzilla wrestles, quote-unquote, wrestles with Space Godzilla, Bulgaria splits into two different mechas. The Star Falcon, a flying battleship, and the Land Bulgaria, a tank with a large drill in the front of it. Why does this remind me of one single show where... who knows? The mechas damage the Crystal Fortress while Godzilla pushes over the Fukuoka Tower, cutting off Space Godzilla's energy supply. Bulgaria quickly reforms and blasts off Space Godzilla's crystal-like shoulder formations, weakening him. And somehow Godzilla got hit in the process. Good aim, mech. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm going to be out of breath. Not as much as out of brain cells. Space Godzilla critically damages Bulgaria, but is subsequently incinerated by Godzilla's not uranium, plutonium atomic ray. Again, I can tell a difference because internet. Yes, the internet. And the internet. Space Godzilla is destroyed, but the JSDF claims that if they keep polluting space, another Space Godzilla may appear someday. That almost sounds so familiar. Do not retread water. All right. Godzilla makes his way back to Birth Island after Miki uses her psychic powers to remove the mind control device from his neck. Wait, why the fuck was it in his neck? Which he turns to her and nods in gratitude. At least Godzilla Sr. is actually polite. Hashtag gender equality. Godzilla Jr. is freed from his crystal prison and begins blowing tiny little radioactive bubbles. How cute. The one single word that I can describe this movie is disappointment. I have never felt that much disappointment since Raise Again, and that is saying something. Weakest of the Heisei series? Yes. Yes, it is. At least in Raise Again, it had some ideas going for it, but it had to follow the original that came before it. The biggest problem with this movie to me is the story. The story is all over the place in a bad way. They introduce new ideas that could be developed and or explored, but they don't do anything else with that plot element. Let me introduce to you, the viewer who is watching this right now, the concept of Chekhov's gun. And thank God it's a good thing I brought my phone back with me back in time, because I wouldn't be able to do this. What is the definition of Chekhov's gun?
Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Chekhov's gun is a dramatic principle that states that every element in a story must be necessary, and irrelevant elements should be removed. Remove everything that has no relevance to the story.
For example, if you put an M1 Garand rifle on the wall in the first act, by the second and or third act, it better be off that wall and be ready to fire. If not, that rifle should not be on that wall in the first place. Same thing here. There are many plot elements within the story that should not be in, the story in the first place. The idea of Project T is an interesting idea, but it's never explored again. The bullet that contains the blood coagulant, it was never brought up again. Do you see why I started to pay attention to stories in movies, anime, and even video games? Hell, I even pay attention to stories in wrestling. Isn't that something? Not only is the story lackluster, but the characters in this movie are even more so. Case in point, Mickey. Oh, what the f did they do to you? It is entirely not Megumi Odaka's fault. Like I said in episode 25, I do not hate on actors and actresses for their performances unless the situation actually calls for it. Same thing here. The problem is the character of Miki Sugusa went from actual development for the character in the previous entry to whining like a backstabbing whore on Tumblr. Having her complain on other people wanting to kill Godzilla, even though their actions are literally justified, is mind-numbingly infuriating. It's so ass backwards. When she refused to take part in Project T at first, why would she go against what she said a year prior? It doesn't make any sense character-wise. When the Cosmos told Mickey that she, quote-unquote, saved Earth, even though Godzilla did all the work, my first thoughts were, she didn't do shit. She did absolutely nothing but act like a CUNT to everyone. What she gets instead is a big old L. No, not just any L, but a capital L, bold, italicized. Whew. That just happened. And I didn't have to rip apart Jimmy. How about that? Jimmy, you're living on a day. For now. Anyway, the rest of the characters, aside from Yuki, who is obviously the best character in this movie, are completely forgettable. Moving on to the designs, it's funny, Godzilla actually took my advice on being way too thick in the previous movie, so he decided to bring all that fat in his thighs. And it's better than nothing. Mogera looks goofy. Godzilla Jr. looks like a fucking Pokemon, in a bad way. Space Godzilla has a cool design, but he himself is now fleshed out more. Okay, car to zoom past this fucking building. Special effects wise, are lackluster at best. The fight in space has a lot to say about that, or has a lot to do with that. And it didn't help that Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon was released in the same year, so that's telling you something. The ending fight goes on for way too long. Speaking of fights, there is a notable lack of digital After Effects, which is implying an effect on an already existing effect. and it is very, very noticeable in the final battle. And it also didn't help that some of the sounds are completely missing. Speaking of sounds, Jesus, okay. I'm going to be in the minority when it comes to this person right here. Like I said earlier, Akira Ifukube refused to compose the score. So in his place is Takayuki Hattori making his debut here. And even though he gets better throughout the years, just like Masaru Sato, his music here is forgettable and, just like the rest of the movie, lackluster. I guess the only good track to even find in this movie is Space Godzilla's theme, played in the beginning of the movie and whenever he's on screen. Well, the problem with his music is that it's repeated. And yes, Ifukube does this too, but at least he makes different versions of the same song. Here, he plays the same music over and over and over again. It's kind of jarring. Overall, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla is once again a disappointing display. There are some good parts that are indeed interesting, but it's buried underneath the unexplored ideas. So fittingly, the film, as a result, earns the final grade of 45 missed opportunities out of 100. Skip to the ending. Okay, thank you, vehicle, for getting in my fucking way. Jesus, I'm turning on and off sensor mode. What the fuck am I doing? Now, before I get to the last entry of this era, I got a phone call from a certain turtle who decided to come out of retirement and was given a second chance. And he said he has a new movie in the next 3 months. Gamera, it better be good. If not, I'm turning you into turtle soup. So anyway, until then, for more thoughts and First Amendment opinions on movies, anime, and video games, stay tuned right here on the Brumakian podcast and subscribe to Brumakian Productions for more juicy content. This has been Demetrius, signing off.